we are saying that if convicted, Sam Bankman-Fried could spend 110 years in prison, but many are thinking he might not even go to prison at all.
Just like in the Bernie Madoff case.
Some breaking news in the case against disgraced crypto founder Sam Bankman-Fried. He was just released on $250 million bond.
This is a fraud case, not much different than when the stock market first started. There was rampant fraud. She was on direct examination by the government, jaw-dropping, shocking testimony.
Today on the show, we are joined by a crypto criminal defense lawyer, Carlo D'Angelo. The Sam Bankman-Fried trial, where SBF faces 7 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering centered on his alleged use of customer deposits on FTX to cover losses at his hedge fund, Alameda Research. Carlo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Melina, it's my pleasure to be here and glad to see you again. You know, it's been a year since we last got to talk together back in Miami, so great to catch up with you.
I know. It's been such a long time now. Obviously, I feel like this is the trial we've all been waiting for, right? Like you said, since Miami, we've been talking about this.
Right.
Tell us what you can right now. I think we are currently on day 7 of his trial.
Of course, because cameras are not allowed in federal court, we have to rely on media reporting to get accounts of what's happening. And there are some great sources out there that are in the courtroom providing real-time updates to what is going on. And based on the reporting I'm seeing right now, we're at the stage of the trial where Caroline Ellison, who was the CEO of Alameda, is on the stand under cross-examination by the defense team. Yesterday and the day before, she was on direct examination by the government and jaw-dropping, shocking testimony that has made the news cycle, and a lot of real bombshells were dropped during her questioning.
I know we keep saying it's been spicier than ever on trial.
It has been very emotional. There were instances where it was reported she was crying during some of her testimony. She's pled guilty. Part of her cooperation agreement is to testify in this trial. And clearly the defense is going to bring up during cross-examination that she has motives to testify favorably on behalf of the government. And that is to be expected in any criminal trial where you have cooperating co-conspirators. And she's a very, very devastating witness so far for SBF, because she is able to testify as to the interworkings of the company and her very close direct communications with him, which lend to his state of mind during all of this, including the collapse.
What do you think? I'm not going to say shocked, like you mentioned, right? She already pleaded guilty, but also just shocked that she was, according to, again, what we're seeing in the media, her crying, her saying she really wasn't, although she was aware, is almost playing like this is truly only Sam to blame. Were you expecting this? Hey, I'm your girl, Melina. I'm a journalist, content creator. I like to say you're hype woman. I put myself in your shoes asking all the questions regarding crypto. Let's take this moment to like. You can go ahead and ask your questions down below. Do not forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss an episode.
Well, she has to acknowledge guilt because she's pled guilty, and there's no question that her plea is going to be thrown in her face. She's pled guilty to the conduct. However, this is a conspiracy. She's a co-conspirator. It's her role in this trial to fill in the blanks as best she can, to put into context through the communication she had with Sam Bankman-Fried what his state of mind was and what his motives were as this was all unfolding. Essentially, this is a fraud case. So they've got to prove that he was a willful participant in a scheme to defraud. He's going to take the approach, and we've kind of seen that preview, that he was trying to do the best he could, had very altruistic, big dreams for crypto, got over his skis, over-leveraged the company, trying to do some ambitious things, and it just got out of hand. The opposite take from the witnesses who have testified so far is that he very much knew what he was doing with customer deposits, and that these customer deposits had really over-leveraged the company and should not have been used as collateral and should not have been used as loans to go over to the Alameda side, which he's also alleged to have had a controlling role in.
Now, we are saying that if convicted, Sam Bankman-Fried could spend, they were saying numbers like 110 years, 10 years, 20 years or so in prison. But many are thinking he might not even go to prison at all. What are you thinking?
Of course, the first thing is he enjoys the presumption of innocence and he's on trial. So the government has to prove their case and they have to get a jury to agree with them and return verdicts of guilt. Assuming that that happens at the end of this trial, he's going to face sentencing in front of the federal judge who is sitting presiding over this case right now, who's listening very carefully and very intently to all the testimony and to all the evidence. And to the people who say that he's going to come out of this with no prison time if convicted, that is not within the realm of possibility. Given the sentencing guidelines, the amount of money that was lost in this scheme, and the sentencing enhancements that he's facing based upon his conduct, he's going to be in a zone where he's facing prison. The question is going to be, is the judge going to consider sentencing him consecutively to each count, or will he give him one sentence which recognizes all the counts of conviction? For example, there's counts that carry 20-year prison sentence. That's the statutory maximum. However, there are sentencing guidelines that calculate a lot of the conduct in this case, which are going to far exceed that 20-year maximum penalty under the statute. The judge has the discretion to depart upward in the sentencing guidelines, and if the judge so chooses, just like happened in the Bernie Madoff case, the judge can stack the sentences and reach that guideline range, and that's where that 110 years is coming from.
Wow. Okay. So you still think that there is a chance he goes to jail? Like I said, there's so many people out there, obviously, on Twitter, on X, saying he may never face jail at all. But you're saying, there's a lot of evidence coming out. We were just yesterday, I was reading up on the hidden messages, all the tools they were using to hide this so-called borrowing of money.
Right. No, there is no question he's facing prison. People are speculating that there's obviously, all kinds of conspiracy theorists who are talking about the fact that because he made all these political donations, he's going to walk away from this with no prison time. That is not at all within the realm of possibility at this stage of the case, where he has pushed the government to go to trial at this point. He wants his day in court. The numbers are going to come back prison. And I've been predicting since the day he was indicted that this could be a Bernie Madoff level sentence after the judge hears, assuming we get to a sentencing phase, after the judge hears from the victims in this case, victim after victim talking about what happened to their life savings and what they lost in this case. And like you said, the measures that have been testified to by the trial witnesses about the efforts to conceal. One of the funny takeaways from yesterday's testimony was they were talking about these bribes to Chinese officials to try and unlock funds that were locked in China, and they were using code word for that thing. And it made me laugh because it made me think of my previous organized crime cases I've been involved in, and it made me think of Analyze This with Billy Crystal and Robert De Niro, where they're talking about, did you take care of that thing, the guy, the other thing, no, this thing. Like this cryptic talk is like right out of a mob movie, and it's not going to work because clearly it's all being put in context by the witnesses who were there.
Yeah, it almost seems like they made it obvious enough, like that thing. There were also, what was I reading? FTX borrows, the word that they were using.
And this was all allegedly, based on a testimony of Caroline, this was all at the direction of SBF because he made it clear that you shouldn't put anything in writing that could be used against us later. So this cryptic talk about the loans and trying to work around what these were, which were in fact customer funds, which if you remember the whole origin of this case, FTX had very robust statements on their platform about how customer funds were protected and they wouldn't touch customer funds allegedly. And now you find out that billions of dollars in customer funds were being used to loan to Alameda to prop up its books and its risky venture capital investments. And then Alameda was out there taking loans from other crypto platforms, borrowing. And when the whole crypto industry started to collapse with Luna, a lot of these outside loans were being recalled. They were knocking on Alameda's door saying, hey, we need our money back. And the only way to get that money back was to continue to dip into investor funds or to sell shares in FTX to raise money. And that's where the drama starts to really unfold.
This brings me to my next question. Considering that his parents, now we know, had very close ties to the Biden administration, and we know that FTX had allegedly helped fund Biden's, election campaign. Does the court need to seek information regarding that presidential campaign, how that came about? I'm curious to know, legally, does Biden have a role in this?
No, the court is not an investigative body in that sense. So law enforcement conducts investigations, not the judicial branch. The relevance is the political donations that were made, which, by the way, seem to have been made to both sides of the aisle. A lot of people speculate that because he donated to the Democrat side, that that's somehow going to influence the outcome of this case. But the judge in this case is going to follow the law. The judge in this case is not going to be swayed politically in any way, in my humble opinion. He's going to do what he swore an oath to do, which was to uphold the Constitution and follow the law. And this speculation about a possible pardon coming, of course, anything is possible, but I don't think after a conviction in a case like this that anyone's going to put their neck out on the line and do anything like that to jeopardize their own political future for SBF.
Carlo, do you see any red flags? I was seeing online, people were saying there are too many coincidences, like Sam Bankman-Fried went to MIT, Gary Gensler was a teacher at MIT. There's a lot of coincidences. Are you seeing any red flags on your end?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the government wants to complicate their case by muddying the waters with politicians, with Gary Gensler, with MIT. They want a clean trial. They're not going to probably go down any of those rabbit holes. Now, whether the defense tries to put any of that out there, the judge is kind of the gatekeeper. And I've seen several reports that the judge has really been trying to control where the questioning is going, having a lot of sidebars, avoiding repetitive questions. And the judge will give latitude on cross-examination, but if they go too far afield with their questions, the judge will probably reel them in.
How do you think this is going to play out? How many more days of trial do we have? And what do you think, where do you see the judge ruling or going towards?
So this is projected, I think, to be about a 3 or 4 week trial. Hard to say. I'm actually scheduled to be in New York next week for a New York State Bar Association conference. And I want to, while I'm in the city, try to pop in and observe some of this trial. I suspect that since the government is still putting on their case with their key star witnesses, I think the government's got a lot more stuff to put into evidence, a lot more possibly very boring testimony, putting documents in and establishing through expert witnesses what this type of fraud and insider behavior and alleged, double bookkeeping and so forth, what this all looks like from expert witness side. So I anticipate the government's case will probably go into next week. Then the government will rest their case. Bankman's lawyers will make an argument for judgment of acquittal, which is standard and required to preserve that issue for appeal. And that's going to be their opportunity to put on their case if they choose to. Because remember, Melina, I said that the defense enjoys the presumption of innocence and they have no burden to prove anything in this case. But if they do decide to put on a defense, they're going to call their own experts. They're going to call their own witnesses that they think support their defense theory. And then they have to make the hard decision. Do they put SBF on the stand to testify? He has the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Nobody can compel him to testify. It is his decision and his decision alone whether he chooses to testify. If he takes the stand and testifies, he's going to be subject to very rigorous cross-examination by the government.
You just made me think of what I was reading earlier today, how SBF, there were these rumors, I guess, or I think it was part of, Caroline's testimonial yesterday, that he was even thinking about becoming the next president and, very, always conscious about his looks, his afro, the car he was driving. It's very interesting. I wish I could be in New York as well, hopefully going and sneak a peek.
Yeah, it's strange. He definitely wanted to control perception. There was reports in the media that he testified about his hair being an asset for him, that when he first got to the Bahamas, he and Caroline were driving nicer luxury cars. But then, according to Caroline's testimony, he made the decision to downsize those cars to, I think, a Toyota and a Honda, because that would be a better outward-facing image of what he was trying to project. But then you contrast that with the loans that people were taking out, the lavish homes and real estate that was being bought, as well as the other expensive things that money was being spent on, it's really hard to say that that's a consistent look.
Now, Carlo, a story like this one, what do you think it does to the crypto space? You and I are both into crypto. It's not our full-time gigs. Anyway, not anytime soon. Does this not amplify, the trolls that follow me on TikTok who tell me, you're a scam, crypto's a scam? What do you think this does to the space, a story like this one?
I think it's a necessary evolution for the space. There is no stopping regulation from coming. Mm-hmm. Because the reason we got to this point is because this was supposed to be a trusted, centralized trading platform. And because it doesn't fall under the same regulatory scheme as a lot of other traditional asset classes do, it is subject to less oversight and possible abuse. So not much different than when the stock market first started. The whole reason that they passed the Securities Act back in 1933 is because there was rampant fraud and manipulation going on within even the stock market. So it is part of the natural evolution of any new form of finance, any new innovation in investment technology, and in the way we exchange goods and services using this new and very innovative form of technology on the blockchain. Regulation has to catch up to it. So we've seen a season of a lot of bad behavior. A lot of platforms have been taken down, a lot of enforcement actions and regulatory actions. But I think on the other side of this, if we do get meaningful regulation that doesn't stifle growth in this industry, then I think ultimately the blockchain is going to thrive and be better for it. But it has to go through these growing pains, sadly. And people have lost a lot of money and learned a lot of hard lessons in the process.
I was speaking to someone last week and we were discussing how this FTX case, SBF's trial, yes, we mentioned crypto, but this is not a crypto story, right? This is someone who took money from other people, right? We're calling this fraud. We're, criminal charges here. But a lot of, the general population associate this to automatically crypto's a scam because look at what this person was able to do. What do you make of the way the media is currently covering this trial? Do you find that it's very crypto heavy? Watch what, all this thing is doing to crypto? Or are you seeing a difference in the wording and the way they're writing their stories?
We don't have the advantage of being able to see the trial unfold. So we have to rely on how the media is reporting it. Overall, I think the reporting is pretty balanced in what I've seen as far as what they're reporting is going on in the trial itself. Yes, crypto has gone through a bad season with a lot of negative press, and some of it to an extent is justified when you look at this level of behavior that's being alleged here and with other potential cases that are coming down the line. So I think, again, ultimately, crypto will be better for this because if we do get meaningful regulation that isn't too aggressive and doesn't stifle growth, we can continue to innovate as far as this technology. And I think the press is going to be receptive to that, I think. Right now, they're reporting on what is top of mind. And what is top of mind right now is the scandals, is the enforcement actions that are going on. There is a lot of positive stuff going on in this space that you and I are aware of because we're very much inside this ecosystem. But that's not what the media tends to focus on in times like this because these are stories that are dominating the news cycle.
Yeah, you're right. Having worked in the media, I know firsthand, you got to get those big headlines going. Carlo, what else can you tell us? Obviously, you're still bullish. I'm still bullish on crypto. What can you tell the audience here today who's potentially watching this, right? Like I said before, this is one of the top stories that my friends come and ask me about without actually questioning, how crypto works, why I believe and bullish on crypto. What can you tell people right now, for those who maybe want to buy a few things? Obviously, I always say this is not financial advice, but what can you tell us?
Well, look, I think look outside of what's going on in the headlines with respect to the criminal enforcement actions and look at what the big institutional players are doing, like BlackRock. They're devoting a lot of time and effort into growing on blockchain. There are a lot of major firms, including Starbucks, that are moving their rewards program to blockchain. I think we are seeing the natural progression of this technology. We're going to see new and innovative uses of this technology. And yes, in that process, there are growing pains. Now, I do want to take a moment with your permission to make an ask and a call to action of your audience.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
There is something very important that is coming down the pike, and it is the proposed regulations that are under review right now by the Treasury with respect to asset broker reporting requirements for consumers who transact with crypto platforms. These potential reforms are up for comment right now, and the window closes October 30th to comment on these regulations. If these regulations are imposed as written, they pose serious privacy concerns, and they are completely unworkable when it comes to managing blockchain transactions in the United States. I'm very much concerned about what happens if these pass. I'm trying to work to create a good compromise and a solution to this problem. I've asked to appear before the Treasury for the public hearing November 7th to try and voice my concerns about as these regulations are currently written. But I would make the call of action to please, and I've got it linked on my X account, to please let your voice be known if you are concerned about how these proposed IRS Treasury regulations will impact tax reporting going forward. I think it's a really critically important issue that is not getting enough attention right now in the space.
Thank you so much, Carlo, for that. And, I always say, I tell all my guests and the audience, especially when it comes to our social media accounts, Carlo and I will never DM you. We will never ask you what Forex trading exchange thing is. I don't know. I get all these weird people writing things to my audience, my target audience here. So all the links will be available down below. Just click the links that I will be able to provide. Of course, Carlo's X account, my social media handles as well. And we will be able to also, Carlo, I think, put down, the links like you said here below. Carlo, thank you so much for being here. Any last words?
No, look, I think we're all going to wait and see how this trial unfolds. I think based upon what we're seeing as far as the evidence right now, it is not looking good for SBF and his defense team, but they still have their opportunity to get up and put on their defense. So going to keep an open mind and wait and see what the defense team has to say when it is their opportunity. Then the case is going to go to closing argument, and then it's going to be in the hands of the jury, and we will all wait collectively for the outcome.
Oh, yeah. My eyes are going to be like this, like peeled, refreshing my X account.
Could you imagine if this thing was televised? Nobody would get any work done in crypto.
It's true. It's true. Well, thank you again, Carlo. I'm going to say one last thing, obviously, to the audience here. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, drop your comments down below. If you have any questions for Carlo or I, like this, we can get Carlo to come back in a future episode to discuss, all the other things that will come out from this SBF trial. As always, I always tell my audience, Carlo, that the juiciest conversations are happening up in my DMs. So make sure to follow me on your favorite social media app. And I'll make sure, of course, to put all the links down below. And that's it from us. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Melina. I really appreciate the time, really appreciate what you're doing in the space. And as always, I'd be remiss if I didn't leave a disclaimer as a lawyer. Nothing I've talked about today should be considered legal or financial advice. If you have a specific legal question, you should definitely contact a lawyer and do that privately.
Thank you so much again, Carlo. Bye, everyone.